software engineer from Dynamics. We will be going to talk about new way to create desktop application from JavaScript, and it's kind of a performance way compared to the code, but I will let you know discuss about that further.
So welcome, Salitha.
Yeah, I'm Salitha. I work at Dynamics Technology. Actually, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to talk with you about my project. If we go back into history, this was my final year project actually. Then this was named as NeutralinoJS because those names are like electron, electric, or whatever. Those names are very similar to this one. Then let's go back to history and let's see then why we developed this one and what is the advantages of this one over the electron, the other frameworks. Let's see about this project Neutralino. Then first we are going to discuss about of course that is about Neutralino. Then Neutralino, if it like brief about Neutralino, it is kind of framework to develop cross-platform applications. Of course, we are focusing on developing lightweight applications, lightweight cross-platform applications. Then of course those applications with Neutralino we can run as native software. And if we need to debug those software, then debug those applications, we can just use those browsers like Chrome, whatever you like, those browsers. Then basically it is a framework to develop lightweight and cross-platform applications. Then let's deep into the context. The context is actually cross-platform. What is cross-platform? And if we consider the applications ecosystem, whatever like Skype or those applications, then we call it application system. And if we consider application software namespace, then we can say like they are like cross-platform applications or the normal application, normal type of application. So we are focusing on cross-platform applications. So what are the cross-platform applications? If a particular application that can be executed in multiple platforms, let's say Windows or Linux or whatever the platform. Multiple platforms, we can call it a cross-platform application because that can be executed in many multiple platforms. If we take like application software like let's say Skype, we can call it a cross-platform application because that will work on Linux, that will work on the mobile platforms, that will work on the Windows platform. For many platforms, we can execute that. Then we know about the cross-platform, of course. Then there are two types of cross-platform application. We can call it compiled type of cross-platform application or interpreted. Of course, those are like compiled programming language, but those are not. Those are like a little bit different. Then let's see what we see. The compiled type of cross-platform applications are like let's say Google Chrome. Then suppose like those developers are from Google Chrome, they are developing the Google Chrome the software. Then what they are doing is then eventually they will build the software. They will compile the software into multiple platforms. They will build separate build for Windows. They will build a separate another build for Linux. Likewise, then they are going to compile the code base into separate different platforms. That is about compiled type of cross-platform application. Let's see like what are the interpreted type of. Interpreted type of things are like a little bit different. Let's say you are making Java file. You are going to know about Java file. Then using Java, whatever the editor, you are going to type application and you are going to eventually make Java file. That Java file will work on multiple platforms. Like in Ubuntu, it will work. Of course, there is different dependency for Java. Java runtime is required. But it will work without any compilation for each. That's why we call for the write ones run everywhere. Then we can write the single code base. That single code base can be compiled. Then that compiled kind of bytecode will work on every platform. We don't need to specifically build for each platform. Windows, we don't need to build that. Likewise, you already know about that cross-platform compiled and interpreted. Let's go further. Then how to build cross-platform application? We already discussed. We can use Java and we can use like C++. Then first thing is we can write like traditional, we can go traditional way, like we can write everything in C, no C level plus. In that kind of approach, then we need to like use if condition. If Windows, we need to do this kind of, we need to execute this kind of function in this kind of header file. Likewise, then we need to develop like in conditional manner. Then using the traditional C double plus and C code base. The next approach is using kind of runtime. We call it like runtime, Java runtime. If we write kind of big kind of application using Java, that can be eventually compiled into Java file. Then using the Java runtime, we can run that. Using the Windows platform, using Linux platform, we can run that. Then there are like kind of, you heard about, how many of you heard about Adobe? Yeah. I don't know what. Then Adobe, it's very similar to the Java runtime, or Flash, almost Flash, it is very similar. Then about Adobe, it's like kind of like Flash-like runtime. Then we can write applications using action history. You know action history. Of course, then I think in Adobe we can use JavaScript as well. Then that's another approach. In that approach, we use kind of runtime to execute those applications. The third is the most important and like the most popular one. We came into that. That is like using JavaScript. The JavaScript and HTML, those web technologies, we can build any kind of cross-platform application. Of course, those cross-platform applications having native functionalities like writing a file, reading a file, likewise. Then those are having like native features. Then the advantages of the third one is using JavaScript we can write. Everybody knows about JavaScript, everybody knows about HTML. Then if someone knows about web technology, of course they can write cross-platform application. That is the most important thing in the third one. That's why that ElectronJS and NWJS, you heard about that. The ElectronJS is the most popular one, which is used to build that Visual Studio Code also. Then there are those kind of frameworks. Of course, we can use JavaScript to build kind of cross-platform applications. Then of course there are the drawbacks of those ElectronJS and those NWJS, those kind of platforms. Then let's check about those things. The first thing is bundle size. The bundle size is, even if you write hello world, simple hello world program in ElectronJS, then the issue is then they are having kind of huge amount of the bundle size is like kind of huge, then heavy. Then if we like write simple hello world, then that will take like more than 100 megabytes to for that bundle. The next thing is memory consumption. The memory consumption is also too high. That is calculated for the hello world. Simple hello world program, just printing hello world in HTML in like Electron application. Then it took like more than 40 megabytes in random access memory in the computer. The next thing is, then when you install ElectronJS, the library, the like development environment you set up, then it will automatically download like like hundreds of JavaScript libraries. Of course, you know that they are like load dash or whatever. Then the dependencies are there. Then those things will be automatically downloaded. Then when you like just install that npm I think that ElectronJS or that whatever library name, those things will be downloaded automatically. That's one of drawback. Next thing is then of course for each platform you need to do a separate build. If you are going to deliver your application, the ElectronJS application into Linux, you need to do a build for Linux. Then if you are going to deploy your application into iOS, then also you need to do a separate build for iOS as well. Then the thing behind that is then heaviness. Heaviness comes because when you build your application, the package consists of the Chromium, the embedded Chromium as well. Then the package contains node runtime as well. That's why the heaviness comes into here. Then the memory consumption also high because the V8 runtime, the V8 engine is there in the Chrome, and also Node they are having V8 runtime. Then also those are the kind of drawbacks in electron-based. Then that's why we think about kind of idea to like overcome the drawbacks of the electron-JS and NeutralinoJS. Then we were thinking what we can do. Then are we going to do like kind of solution for like compressing electron-JS? But we found that we can't, because we cannot further compress that V8 runtime and those heavy stuff into like small package. Of course they tried, but they can't. They compiled eventually those things into like 40 megabytes, but it's still heavy. The memory, regarding the memory also, it is still heavy. Then we were thinking what we can do. Then we were thinking how we can build kind of lightweight platform to develop cross-platform application. Then we can we make that is fully portable? It means that there are no dependencies regarding that coming into that Adobe Air. Then if you like, if you're going to like run Adobe application, of course you need to have Adobe Air runtime in your computer. That is a dependency. Then we are thinking then how we can make fully portable framework. Then the next point is simple development workflow. That means if you're going to make application, that way of developing application, the way you are taking to that eventual application, that should be like kind of simple. Then if you are going to release your application, you need to like download the build package and you need to do a lot of things. Then we are planning how we can like simplify the development flow. The next thing is native access. Then using our application, our framework, then we can build the application. Then those applications are having native access to the system. It means that we can make system calls from our application. Then we started developing our framework that is called NeutralinoJS. Then we released the initial version, I think last year, when we were like getting many feedback from the community, from the GitHub, like other forums as well, the forums, we are getting kind of good responses. They were asking then, are you releasing a Mac version, like Mac version of our framework? Then some asking like, is there the to it version Windows? Then because we built only for the 64-bit version, then likewise we were getting kind of good response from the community. Then we tried more than stars from the GitHub rating we received. Then coming to the internal parts of the Neutralino, but before that you learned about kind of theoretical things about our framework. Then why you don't be like looking to like practical sessions? Then I will be like writing like kind of hello world or whatever simple program using Neutralino. If you have a laptop, so kind of devices you can try. You can download that Neutralino SDK, the SDK from neutralino.js.org website. Then now I have downloaded the SDK file. That is of course the zip file. Then I have extracted that zip file from all that. So now I will just open that files in editor. Importantly, that is having JSON file, settings JSON file. This is where you include the application settings, application name and port. If you enter like port as 0, then it will randomly choose kind of available port when you execute the application. The next thing is mode. Mode is window means then when you open the application, that will be rendered in native. Then there are several modes as well. The window size is there. Then we are having index.html. This is where we write the UI of the application. Of course, using the HTML, you can use whatever the template or anything in here.
Can I say? Smoothie.
Inside the asset folder, you can create whatever you like, the CSS files and JS files. Those are things you need to build the application. For an example, we have in the like initial boilerplate, we have activities. This is where like we don't like initial script startup. You go back to the folder, there is like NeutralinoJS. This can be renamed into the your like desired name, your name of the application. If we execute this, then it will render the application will be rendered in native Windows. If you use like different mode like browser, then it will render the application in the normal browser. This is where you can debug the application using the browser console or the debug points or whatever. Here we can check another mode like browser mode. There are several modes. In the website you can see all the stuff. So this will open the application in browser tab. Or the default browser. In my case, we are using Google Chrome. If you check the documentation, in the API there are several useful functions. Here I am not having it implemented. For example, when project loads, then I will open Visual Studio Code. There is like Neutralino function for that. Neutralino OS and run command. And the application name. Here I am going to execute the Visual Studio Code. And there are callback functions as well. So now I will keep it like and I am going to reset the mode into window. When I open this thing, the Visual Studio Code will be appear. Of course, there are like several useful functions. The one I use, for example, that is the Neutralino OS.run command that will execute arbitrary command in your application. There are several things as well. File system, reading files, writing files, and reading directories. Likewise, and in the storage, you have like JSON storage, a kind of JSON database. You can save the data, so you can like key value storage. Then there are several things you can try. The website is NeutralinoJS.org. You can check out. Then we are going back to the presentation. Here are some internals about Neutralino. Then if you compare like ElectronJS and Neutralino, there are differences of course. Then in here, then what we did was, then we have created here Neutralino server is there. Then in ElectronJS, node runtime, the node runtime is used to execute native code, native like system code. Then we are replacing node with Neutralino server. Then this is more lightweight than this. Then here we are in web browser component. In Windows, we have like IE plugin. In Linux, we have like WebKit plugin, WebKit browser plugin. Then in NeutralinoJS, in other side, we have Chrome. The heavy Chrome runtime is there, heavy Chrome embedded Chrome. Then we are replacing that embedded Chrome with our existing existing browser component. That is why the Neutralino is more lightweight than NeutralinoJS. We are replacing those components. That's about the internal part. So you can learn more about the internal part in the repository. We have like uploaded all the documents, design documents into there. You can just Google NeutralinoJS. Then let's do some comparison. For the comparison, we wrote like the three similar applications, three hello world applications. One in Electron, one in NWJS, the other, those are similar. The NWJS and ElectronJS are like a kind of similar platforms, similar frameworks. Then we wrote another one using NeutralinoJS. Then what we did was we did kind of several factors, we did kind of comparison. We measured the disk usage, then Electron took this much, then it's almost same as the NWJS. Then for the Neutralino, it is like very lightweight. Then we see the entire solution. We then compare those factors in the for each project. Then we got this amount of megabytes in Electron. It is almost same as NWT. In Neutralino, we have like very lightweight. It's like 1 megabyte per hello world. Then we measured the run base, the run usage. Then we had this kind of megabyte in size, in numbers. Then in Neutralino, it's just 7 megabytes and likewise. Then dependencies wise, in Electron there are dependencies, there are like libraries are there. Then in Neutralino, there are no dependencies. Then of course, then if you execute your application in Windows without like suppose you install fresh version of Windows, you format the computer, then you install fresh version of Windows. Then you download a Neutralino like application, then you are going to execute. Of course, then it will work because then it is using that IE plugin and the server is there, Neutralino lightweight server is there. Then that is a binary, then it will execute. There are no dependencies. Then we measured the performance as well. Then it took like 5 milliseconds to execute that ALS command in Linux. Then using the same library function, I use NeutralinoJS run command. Then we are still in progress in these kind of issues. Then we had the idea to from the community also they asked we need to try in our Mac device, we need to try in our Apple computer. Then we were thinking we need to develop that our solution into iOS as well. The Mac OS as well. Then that issue is there. Then one person from Sri Lanka and one person from I think another country, they are working with this idea, the Mac OS support. They are almost done. I think they are developing that thing, and one developer actually using the Rust programming language, one developer using C++. Then I'm going to select the C++ version because we already developed the other Linux and Windows version using the C++. Then application bundle is there. Then if you use ElectronJS, they have a kind of CLI. Then you can build your application using Neutralino build or something that Electron build or something. Then you can build your application, setting the destination platform, Windows or Linux. Then we are going to develop the same mechanism in Neutralino as well. There will be commands like njs build, njs install, and then likewise there will be a kind of CLI in Neutralino ecosystem as well. Then we are working on those. Of course, then those things will be done in I think next few months. Then that's about it. I think you can try Neutralino project going into the website. There are documentation as well. There is Slack chat as well. Then where we discuss about the things happening there. Then thank you very much for listening, and also thank you very much for giving me opportunity to talk with you my project. I think you will visit the GitHub repository as well. There are boilerplates for Angular, boilerplates for React. and all the things are there. Just Google NeutralinoJS and you.
I'm really happy to see a Sri Lankan project going this far and doing really well. We can stay a moment and just have kind of a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any questions regarding this project?
Q&A and also the ideas are welcome.
Yeah.
So what does Electron have that Neutralino doesn't have?
Electron, you mean in functionality?
Like there is an extra RDMA there in the module, another 30 MB in the RAM. Like there must be something they are doing that Neutralino doesn't
Yeah,
have.
it's actually one is because they actually bundle the .js V8 runtime plus Chrome WebKit, so that's why they have that much of things already in there. He goes strict that into the browser plugin, so the Chrome part will be get removed and replace the node with the Neutralino server part, which is actually more lightweight than Node.
Yeah, one disadvantage is like removing node lists where there are libraries. There are millions of I think libraries
Like
that
dependencies. When
those
you
things
have-
cannot be used in Neutralino.
Like can you give me examples of things that you all have like dropped because you all prefer the lightweight over like that function?
Yeah, what we did was then when we are developing that runtime, we were checking like what are the most used functions, like writing the file, those things. Then we took those things and implemented in the library itself. Then we drop the node. Then we drop we use all the libraries. That is one of the disadvantages.
So in terms of the native browser, right, that you are using for rendering.
Yeah.
So if it comes to Windows, you said IE is the one that's used, right? So then is there any trouble with styling and IE is used, right? Do we still face that in this?
Yeah, the ES6 we not talking then we were trying to integrate Edge browser plugin. That is possible. Then someone I think commented we can use Edge browser plugin instead of the IE, but we need to have that Windows SDK or something to build that thing.
Oh, I think then you need to drop all the Windows 8 below version to support it.
We can
So it is coming with the
You will
Windows
have to
10.
run it, make it compatible only with Windows 10.
Maybe we can add conditional whether it is like lower than Windows. Yeah, the IE plugin.
You guys search it, it is available. Then
Edge is available, but
No, I mean,
there is
condition.
condition that the Windows SDK that thing can be used to build
I compile it.
all the issues are there as ideas in the repository.
So all the IE issues you will come across, right? Like in terms of styling and all that.
Yeah,
CSS.
most of like CSS, the latest things we not talking.
How is the community cutting on? Is there any application recently?
Yeah, then they are like trying. Somebody merge node with our Neutralino, and they build kind of another new thing. Then they are trying. They are like experimenting with it.
Because these days, most of the applications running Electron, so it's like running multiple Chrome browsers. And that is still not enough.
In modern scenario, the thing is that we are having like high-end machines and all the things.
Yeah, but it's still not enough. The RAM is
Yeah, the here we focus on lightweight than the lightweight one.
So at the moment, what are the platforms you are supporting? Only Windows?
Windows and Linux, and the macOS thing is still in focus.
still not enough.
So Windows 8.1 plus.
No, actually, even in XP also it will work.
Okay.
Because the IE plugin is used.
You will try to build a desktop application in your JavaScript rather than JavaScript. Smart. Any experiences with it? Was it easy?
Not that positive, but aiming to that further. But the main issue I did was the bundle sizes and those stuff. So I think you one may be a lot better, but we can solve those dependency issues like the multi-platform issues. It will be great.
Yeah, this thing is actually portable. The SDK, when you download the zip file, it will work on all the platforms. Like kind of portable.
So there's another alternative from Salitha. So they have one called EKG. The name is EKG. So you can actually compile into a model with your HTML and JavaScript into an executable version. And securely for kind of a proprietary solutions where somebody cannot reverse engineer. So they do it for their say now application which is running on cross-platform. But still I couldn't figure it to work with Electron yet. But otherwise you can do something. Now it's actually the state platform, but they have a browser kind of a desktop application where you can track the code and there it's going to be hosted.
It means that they have GUI.
Yeah, they have GUI application for Mac, but yeah, that's not yet.
Can't reverse engineer means you can't see the code.
Yeah, kind of they are going into the V8 snapshots level, so it will be modeled as HTML file from the snapshot. So some kind of obstruction is there. Because even Electron apps, you can go into the install folder in maybe Windows is like that. You can go grab data and go inside and get separate folders, and you can kind of dig into the applications. So, but still Slack, even Skype, and VS Code and Atom and stuff, still, and the other one would be it. So kind of okay to build that using JavaScript.
In terms of when you're running the application, like is there admin access that you need, all that kind of things?
Like for instance, if you want my system as yeah, more questions.
Possible you can load even website into we have kind of but that loading web content into that is possible.
Is it available in the documentation?
In documentation actually they are not fully completed. Then there's like all the things in the GitHub repository, like organization, you may go to that and issue that will help us to improve further. This is not like kind of a
Yeah, definitely not just full-time job.
this is fully completed. This is not fully completed.
Yeah, but we should appreciate that from Sri Lanka anyway. So you may also pointed out to support the Mac version also. So as a community, you can actually help him test it out, debug and do some feedback. So we can actually have a very good and popular repository from Sri Lanka.
Yeah, it's like chat dash.
And this is like almost. Any other questions? Or we can do that.
So up to which class version does it support? Like ES5 or ES6?
I supported the JavaScript version. That depends on the platform. And if you take Linux, there's WebKit 2 and WebKit 2. Then that will support ES6. Then in Windows case, that will support like the lower versions of ES6 because that arrow function will not work in IE.
Because depend on the browser components.
Yes.
But I think still you can transfer it down. We're not going to hide the things that we can transfer it down.
So does the transpile come by default or do we by ourselves?
There is no transpile immediately. Then developer can choose whatever they like.
So like Electron, and they have a separate project called Electron Forge. It's like a bootstrap project. It has all the support for the inbuilt updating and stuff. So we can actually have another bootstrap template where you have all these kind of things that support the transpilation and all stuff. Not in the main repository, that's separate.
Like library-wise, if we take like Angular and those libraries, then we have built a kind of a like boilerplate.
So this time is kind of use React boilerplate.
Yeah.
We support for that.
React template is the Angular and Vue template.
Is there any other questions?
If you have like ideas to improve the Neutralino, then
Yeah, I have a plan. So how about the network connectivity? Can you get online, offline connectivity?
in application Neutralino. Yeah, then you can make like electric client side, then that was it.
And then how about updates? Let's say we have a kind of update
The
push.
version, the updates of the SDK like framework.
On the framework, I mean, let's say I built an application. Now it's in version 1, and when I release it, I need to give an update for version 2. How we can do it like that?
Those updating mechanism is not like implemented. Then in current case, then developer need to like compile that built-in new version and just like updating the binaries, you need to recombine it, then you update and republish.
You can kind of comment like way like electronic means that we can get the background.
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it, yeah. So that's an idea for me.
Yeah, that's it.
Any more questions?
Any popular ones that any exist that are available? That, like maybe we say electronics, Skype, and VS Code. Are there any applications that are they can access?
With Neutralino.
Yeah.
Actually, we have built kind of a sample application. Then I think community.
There's kind of a good community support, like people from Germany and doing the resumes and stuff. So most of the people are actually active and do kind of PRs and stuff. So that means it's in good directions.
Recently, we have added Neutralino into issue one. They funded I think $300. Then one I think $100. One took that amount. Then by creating a logger. Previously, there was not a kind of a logger to like developer log the things and write it to the log file. Then when the error happened or some kind of breakdown happened, there was no kind of log. But that person implemented. Then issue one paid like $100. That still they are $200 for the macOS implementation.
If you want 100%, you want to
I think one for one almost done.
yeah, there's a race. Yeah, there's two people racing now.
Have you guys ever like think about investment? If you can and that support them by limiters, right?
We can try that thing into Neutralino, but we tried the WebSocket approach. We were thinking why we can't use the WebSocket approach instead of the HTTP request meeting the client and
And it was a
Improve the latency,
the
speed up.
the issue was while implementing in C++, we needed several libraries and stuff. But we can do easily that HTTP mechanism just using the socket like socket pipe. That's why we did of course, this is kind of a POC and not fully production ready one. Then probably if we gather more community, then we will rewrite it.
I was talking about the investment. So the investment can execute any language and we can compile it. It doesn't mean the node
has kind of dependencies, but it also like it can compare to full node, full node, but it's still in run. There's a project that you can run browser inside browser. That's the craziest one that you see from the papers. Yeah, I think that's enough.
And so some guys have tried Python and like different languages, maybe also.
Yeah, Rust has good support for the representative because it's running from Mozilla, so they're doing really good job. And there's a project where you can, we talked about in previous meetup also, where you can compile any C++ one into the representative. You can see any WhatsApp, representative website, they have kind of this kind of support for that. Many of the language support to convert into WebAssembly. You cannot write directly in WebAssembly. You need to write in some language and then compile in WebAssembly. Not like you are writing in WebAssembly. And if you get into, then we had a workshop in JSConf also. If you actually go to the YouTube channel, it's available in Singapore. Asia, they had about two, three talks on WebAssembly. But what's going on? JSConf Asia. JSConf Asia. And they have the one YouTube channel called JSConf. It has all the videos for JSConf EU and Asia and US. So let's move to the next session. So we have Rajika. He's also an open source contributor. He's also mentor for Focus on Code and from the organization Scholar. Yeah, he has also spoken in multiple international also. And he's going to talk about.
Right, guys. So good evening. So we'll be looking into a very new technology which is called Deno, and it can execute JavaScript and also TypeScript. So the main focus with Deno is to execute TypeScript. So we'll be looking into this Deno runtime and why we need to look into such a technology. So I'm Rajika. I'm currently working as a senior software engineer at NeutralinoJS. This is the Deno logo. So it's an interesting take on the technology because if you take Deno, its competitor, we can mention that its competitor should be Node.js because it's similarly executing JavaScript, and Deno takes it to the next level by executing TypeScript natively. So let's look into the components in Deno. So if you compare Deno and Node.js side by side, Node.js uses V8 as well, and Deno uses V8 as well to execute JavaScript. And if you move into the next component, Deno internally uses Rust. So there's an interesting take on this architecture. So I will go through the architecture about the architecture and why they have selected this particular architecture for Deno. So there's a Rust crate. So if you are familiar with Rust, crates are similar to packages in NPM. So there's a crate called Deno. If you go to crate.io, you can see there's a crate for Deno. So if you want to install, you can there are a few install scripts for different operating systems. So if you go to this repository, you can see how to install Deno in different operating systems. So you just have to run this script and Deno will be installed in your system. And Deno can execute TypeScript natively. So if you think about Node.js, its primary objective is to execute JavaScript. But in terms of this Deno technology, you can execute TypeScript. And internally, it has a built-in compiler snapshot in the V8 level. So you might think that executing TypeScript takes some time to boot up the compiler. The TypeScript compiler is separate technology rather than taking JavaScript itself. So what they have done is they have included a compiler snapshot in the V8 level. So the boot up speed is much more great than what we would expect. So if we move on to the core design, so a little bit of disclaimer: this Deno technology, it's at a very early stage of development. So there's a small community who are developing these documentations because most of the core contributors are spending their time to improve the APIs and the core of Deno. So if you move into this infrastructure section, you can see the types of layers in Deno. So the first one is the TypeScript frontend. The frontend which has the APIs to execute different types of operations. So with TypeScript you can access the file system and do networking stuff, TCP, HTTP. So you can do various stuff similar to Node.js with JavaScript. You can do with TypeScript in the Deno frontend. So the second layer is the C++ layer. So in between the Rust backend, so there's a third layer which is the Rust backend. We'll be coming to that later. There's a second layer. It is called libdeno, which sits at the middle in between JavaScript, in between the TypeScript frontend and the Rust backend. So this libdeno is responsible of communicating with the V8 engine. So this is the last layer, which is kind of the most important one. So this is also known as the privileged site. You can see that on the documentation. So they have used Rust as the privileged site and a library called Tokyo. If you think about Node.js, they are using a library called libUB to execute things asynchronously. But in terms of Deno, they are using a library called Tokyo, which executes asynchronous code. And for those who have used Node.js, you are using different packages. So in the Node.js land, we call them as packages, different modules. But in the Deno runtime, we call them as modules. So the philosophy of Deno is to use ES modules. So as you can see with TypeScript and JavaScript in latest versions, you can use these ES modules. So likewise, the Deno philosophy is to use ES modules rather than using the require statement. So there's no require statement in Deno. And when it comes to the Deno runtime, you don't have a package manager. The package manager is bundled with Deno. So when you install Deno, you get the CLI, which is also the package manager. So there's no separate package manager like NPM in Node.js. And the module caching is also done internally using Deno. So there's no separate mechanism to handle caching. And Deno takes security pretty seriously. If you think about Node.js, you can just execute scripts, you can access the file system, you can access the network without any explicit permission. So you don't have to give any explicit stuff when you execute a Node.js script. But when you execute a script in Deno, you have to give your explicit permission. So I will demonstrate these permissions and module caching when it comes to the demonstration. And if you have uncaught errors, it will die. Alright, so I will show a few things about the Deno command line. Yeah, so once you use this Deno install script, you will so once you install using a script, you will get this Deno command line and the REPL. So if you execute just Deno, you will be in the REPL. So let's see what we have here. Right, so this is a simple example, a simple Deno script. So there's a global variable called Deno. So that's how you can access all the environment variables, and there are different properties you can access. The file system, you can go to this documentation to refer all the APIs available. So in the TypeScript land there are certain APIs, and so these are the APIs available. So in this documentation there are all the APIs that you can access using this TypeScript frontend. So likewise you have this Deno global object, and you can take the environment variables and all the metrics when you're running Deno. So let's try to execute this. So to execute this, you can use the Deno run and on ps. So I mentioned about security. So Deno takes security very seriously. So if you execute a Node.js script, you would have got the output. But when you execute Deno, you will be prompted with this. Yeah. So Deno asks that to give permission. So there are a few options: always allow once, deny once, and deny always. So we have to give the permissions explicitly. So I will give allow once, and so these are the environment variables that we have. This list, which we access here. So these are the environment variables, and the metrics we have in the console table. So these are few metrics available from the Deno runtime. And with regards to the compiler, let's go back to our file. So I will modify a few things in this file. And now that we have a file which is not formatted correctly, the Deno command line itself gives a formatter. So likewise we have prettier in JavaScript and many other formatters in JavaScript line. So the B8 they also have these certain rules and standards to follow. So they will have certain rules. So they have this option. They have format and form.ts. If you go back to our form.ts, they have formatted the command line itself formats the Deno script. So there's this format command which is pretty handy. So it is kind of going against the Node.js philosophy in terms of the internal design, as well as how we use various scripts to execute different logic. So it's again going against the Node.js design philosophy. And one thing to note is that there's no package.json, so you don't have any packages, the concept of packages in Deno, but you have is the concept of modules. So even though you have this concept of modules, there's no package.json. So if you have used Go, there's no dependency management out of the box. So what you use is that you use URLs. So likewise you use ES modules, as I mentioned earlier. So you use ES modules to include your dependencies. So there's no concept of packages in Deno. So since there's no concept for packages, there's no package.json. And there's no external package manager. So in Node.js we have npm, but in Deno, the package manager and the runtime, the formatter, they are all bundled into the one executable. So there's no external package manager like we have in different environments like Python and Node.js. So one question that I had was that maybe this might be compatible with Deno because if it can execute TypeScript, it can execute JavaScript, which means that it might be compatible with Node.js. So one thing I forgot to mention is that the creator of Node.js is Randall, and the same creator is working on this technology because he felt that there are few different things that Node.js might have done differently and better. So he is doing this project from scratch to do those things that he feels that he could have done better when he was creating Node.js back in 2008 or 2009. So in one of the earliest talks about Deno in the last year maybe, he mentioned that he does not have any idea about making this Deno scripts compatible with Node.js scripts. But I saw this issue which was opened July 14. So interestingly, he has changed his mind. So he's thinking about making Deno Node compatible. So which means that if you have, let's say, a Node.js script running currently in production, it should be compatible side by side with the Deno runtime. So for some reason he has changed his mind about the Node compatibility and Node compatibility with Deno scripts. So if you're interested, you can just go through this conversation. So yeah. And according to Randall, a subset of Deno will be browser compatible. Since we are using ES modules, not required in getting the modules, a subset of Deno will be browser compatible, and you can run the Deno scripts in the browser. So if you take Node.js, you can't, most of the Node.js scripts you can't run without certain tools like Webpack or other bundling tools. But if you think about Deno, there will be a certain subset which will be compatible with browsers. So you can take the Deno script which you just wrote and run in the server side, and take that also to the browser side and run a certain subset of Deno in the browser. So it will be browser compatible according to him. But I haven't tried this yet. It seems very interesting. So yeah. Yeah, so this is how you install Deno. There's an install script which I mentioned earlier. Yeah, so let's jump into some code. I have created a few things. So when you first learn Node.js, what you do is you create TCP server. So I demonstrated this home.ts which has environment variables and metrics. Before going into the TCP server, we will look into a file writer which can write to a file. This is a very simple example. So we have immediately executable function, and we are using async and await. I hope all of you are familiar with async and await. And we have a text encoder, and we are trying to, so what we are trying to do is we are trying to write this same text to two text files. So let's try to run this. So currently we don't have those two files. So we should have hello world and hello world 2. So let's try to run these two files, this script, and yeah. So this asks for the permissions. I will give allow once, and you can see that we had two writes. So this asks for permissions twice. So which means that this is very secure compared to Node.js. So let's see whether we have the files. Yeah. Hello world. Yeah. So we try to write this hello world to this hello world txt and hello world to txt. So that was a very simple file writer. and this is a simple cat program. We can so what this is doing is getting the argument, first argument, and writing to a file. So let's try to run that. CMBJS. Again, it asks for the right. It's trying to take the file. Run cat.ts text. Yeah. So this is a simple cat program which takes the content from the file and writes the content to the std out. So it takes the argument. So you can take the first argument from Deno.arg. So this Deno, this is global, and you can take the arguments from this arguments args array. And like we did in the earlier example, we can write to a file. We can write to the std out. So the next example that we have is. Let's move into some TCP stuff. So this is creating a TCP server which is running on port 8080, and it's listening for connections. Deno run TCP. Yes. Asks for the it's running on 8080. Say yeah. So right now it does not return anything. If you go back to this tcp.ts, it takes the address, and there's a listen function from Deno, which is the TCP listen, and copy from Deno. And we have a while loop which listen for connections. Yeah. So this is a simple example of a HTTP server. So when you are learning Node.js, you might be looking into these HTTP servers with the HTTP module in Node. This is how we can get the HTTP server up and running. Like I said, we are using ES modules. We are not using require statements. We are using only ES modules, which is a same specification in JavaScript. And we can use this function. So if we go to this. So this has this internal code which executes the HTTP server. So if you go through this, just this run response, and so there are different stuff. This kind of complex, not very complex. So this is the URL that we get the HTTP server code from, and we can execute this serve function, and we can give the address like we do in Node.js HTTP modules. And in Deno, it's kind of a practice to create this main function, this for main function, and inside this main function that we want to execute all the logic that we are interested in. So what we are doing here is that we are returning just a text called Deno world, Let's try to run this. Yeah, so we are returning this simple string called Deno using the server that we created from this module. So these are called modules. So in terms of Node.js, we are calling them as packages, but in Deno we call them modules. So if we go back, I'm not quite sure whether this will get executed. This express like so people have created this equivalent of Express.js in Deno, so you can get the same APIs, more of the same APIs in Express for Node.js. Yeah, so this is pretty much similar. This has pretty much similar APIs to Node.js Express, and yeah. So if you look into these APIs, if you think about app.get, which is pretty similar to how we declare a routing Express, and how we declare middleware in Express. So this is called expressive by this. Yeah. So let's try to execute. I'm not 100% sure that this will get executed due to few changes in Deno runtime, because Deno gets very big changes. So it's decimal port 800, and the route is API/todos. Yeah, so like you saw, this asks for the security permission explicitly, because I just gave allow once, if I'm not wrong, and it asks for permissions for different executions. So when we requested this API route, it asks for permission, and likewise if you need different security permissions at different levels, you can execute different scripts with different execution levels with Deno. You don't have that power with Node.js. So I think I'm pretty much done with all the examples that I have. If you move into this, so the GitHub organization is called Deno. If you go to Deno, they will have this central repository. This is where all the Deno APIs lies. The Rust backend, the middle end with Deno, and the TypeScript front end. So you can go through all the code. And the official website is called Deno.land. It's a pretty minimalistic website which has all the examples and TypeScript APIs, Rust APIs, how you can contribute to this, and a manual which has all the design philosophies, why they have chosen various decisions in order to compromise various things. So yeah, so that was the official website. And this Deno STD, it is a standard module. So if you think about Node.js, there's no concept of standard modules, but in terms of the Deno runtime, they are developing this Deno standard library. So if you take an example in C#, Java, we have standard libraries. And similarly, in Deno land, we have this Deno std, which contains all the Deno standard modules. So for an example, FS, HTTP, log, they are all part of these standard modules. Yeah, so all the examples that I showed here today, they are available in this repository, and the official website is called Deno.land. So before finishing up, is it reinventing the wheel? I'm not quite sure. I would love to hear any thoughts from you guys as well. It may be reinventing the wheel because it's just some might think that it's just executing JavaScript and we are on JS already, but why do we need such a technology? But if you think about the differences, is it actually reinventing the wheel? So yeah, I would like to hear more comments from you guys as well. Yeah, so that's from this talk. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's open questions.
This thing that you said that it runs TypeScript. Does
Yeah.
that mean that we have runtime typing?
Yes.
So like would it throw an error if you try to assign a number to a
Yes, exactly. That's the same things that you can do in TypeScript, you can do in Deno.
The thing is TypeScript is compiled and so like if you have a
Sorry,
variable that
you were
saves
using
string-
a runtime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think so, forget all about the forget all about this backend stuff. If you think about just TypeScript, how you run TypeScript, you have to compile that. So that's how you can do. So with this Deno run, it's just executing the command runtime. But I think if I'm not wrong, it will go through the types as well with this run command, and there's another command which you can build the code like you do in a TypeScript compiler. So it will do the same. It will have the same behavior. But in Deno run as well, I think it's checking for types. If I'm not wrong. Yeah. It should be checking that. Otherwise, there's no point of
Yes,
using
yeah,
it.
yeah, actually doing the NeutralinoJS application still.
Yeah.
We do task, right?
So isn't there a way for us to write TypeScript for Express or for Node.js? Is there a way?
Yeah. So the main idea here is not just to use TypeScript. So as Rajika mentions, in terms of the design, the core design, the internals, there are few things that we might have done properly when compared to Node.js. So for an example, the module system, it's kind of a mess. So if you think about the Node.js modules, there are so many things that we can improve. So that's what we are trying to improve, not just the outer APIs that we see, not just the things that we interact day to day, but all the core design internals. There are so many things that we can improve. So that's what he is trying to address with the Deno.
He had a good talk in JSCon.
Yes.
What if at the decision if we build in Node.js again?
Yeah.
So in that talk, he actually talked about the problems with the require and how
Yeah.
running this.
And the package manager, so especially the package manager, it's a very big mess in Node.js. The Node module, it's a very big mess.
Because it's not doesn't support the modularity itself.
Yes.
So that's why still we have the beta version of importing Node.js. It's going to be with MJS thing.
Yeah.
Like there is no central like package or module repository right?
For the Deno?
Yeah. So
Like say you have a dependency that is some URL.
Yeah.
That dependency goes down, like you can't really
that's your responsibility, but let's say if you think about Go, that's the same. So he has taken some inspiration from Go as well to Deno to implementing this module pattern. So it's your responsibility. So if you have a module, so it's your
It's
responsibility.
like you are keeping your dependencies in the project.
Yeah.
Okay, so like say the dependency you have has another dependency.
Yeah, so that depends on the
That's why the thing is blocked.
Like,
Yes.
you talked about the left hand fiasco, right?
Yeah.
So, like, could this solve that?
It doesn't. So what it does to what it tries to solve is the module mess. So it is not trying to actually address that problem. So if you think about Go, there's no package management or package management repository, central package management repository, but there's something called Go Dev, which was developed after that. So that's not from the Go core team. So that's not an official thing.
Even NPM is also run by a separate.
Yeah, it's also a separate company. So that's why they are bundling all the things together. The Deno formatter, the Deno runtime, the Deno command line. They are all keeping it in the same executable, and they don't have a separate package manager. So even if I don't think they will be thinking about supporting a separate package manager. So that's not something that they will be thinking about right now. So it's your responsibility to keep the modules. So like
Still versions with the versions and all stuff.
yeah,
Because when it's come to kind of production apps, we don't try to get updates
Yeah.
as soon as it's released because it's going to be complete mess.
yeah. So the same questions were raised when we had this Go language release. So it's your kind of the responsibility to keep your modules. So yeah, like you said, there might be a case of left pan.
So if it is pulling in from outside source,
Yeah.
will it get cached on the
Yes, it gets cached in the home directory. You can configure that home directory with the Deno command line. So default one is for the Deno home or something, and it will get cached. So let's say you are traveling, and right before you get into an airplane, you just Deno run something, and once you are in the airplane, you don't have Wi-Fi. You can still use your dependencies with the cache. So yeah.
So it's on a global level, not on a project level.
Yeah. You can actually configure it the project level as well, so that's a separate thing. So there are few options to do that.
So like how does it resolve the conflicts between say I import two different this generally happens in Angular.
Yeah.
Like you import two libraries, they use two different versions of Angular.
So the versions and all the things should be included in the URL itself. So like I mentioned, they're using the ES modules. So in the URLs itself, I think it should be included.
So in this case, we would be downloading both versions. What does the conflict get resolved?
So how do we get both versions? I'm not actually getting that.
Yes, when you when you importing something, it's in that file. You should only import one, right?
No, I don't get
So like my question is like say you are importing two libraries.
Yeah.
in your project, and those two libraries use two different versions of React Go and Angular. Now, from your point of view, you're only including two URLs to those two libraries. But from within those two libraries, they can spread across, right? They can use different versions of what they use.
Yeah.
In that
So-
kind of scenario, what in the NPM happens is NPM asks you to pick which version of Angular would you like to use, or
Yeah.
which version of React would you like to use. How does that kind of
Yeah, so in this case, the version and all the details should be included in the URL. So let's say 2.1, 2. Something else. So it should be included in the URL itself.
Yeah. I got your question, but I'm still thinking an answer.
No, I think it's your responsibility that it says, because there is no sense of versioning.
I think that part will be run separately maybe with that version, and that one is going to be interpreted anyway. But going to be mapped anyway, I think so. Because it's going to that file and then file. So any more things that it's going to resolve with Node.js? Or do you think that the type is going to kill JavaScript? Do I need to rename the Colombo JS to
Colombo CMBJS.
Yeah.
I don't think JavaScript still it's like the major thing that we use. So,
What if the Microsoft or the browser told them we are going to support native JavaScript? Like that
yeah.
is going
So in that case, there will be a much higher percentage
The
of.
discussion is actually got raised recently because about 55 or something of the libraries now in NPM is written in TypeScript.
Yeah.
So still people having ideas.
So we had Flow.js from Facebook earlier, and I think it's not.
Still there.
Yeah, it's still there, but
yeah.
yeah.
How many of you use Flow with the React?
Yeah.
Are you use Flow with Flow?
Just one
I
time.
had I used at beginning, but when the Flow updates, you get some issues. I
Yeah.
update again
And it's kind of hard to configure Flow as well compared to TypeScript.
Yeah.
It's just taking the config.
because in VS Code it's just supported the library.
Yeah.
So you need to set up and do the configurations also. And when it comes to Flow being, you need to have some one Flow in, and if you install it as a dependency, it's going to become
Yeah.
a technical global one. And they are also giving new updates. So the next version will be having native caching and all stuff. So they also have another talk with them. So any more questions or any other discussions about JavaScript or TypeScript?
Any new things that we can expect in the next few months?
Yes, new version will be just announced, so you don't need to have error in catch. So it's optional now, so you can commit the error. We don't know why, but still people like it. Sometimes I think good, but yeah. So there will be that. And there are some. Let's take some discussion about loops. How many of you use in arrays for each? Can you use break inside for each? Can you use break inside for each? The associate yes. You don't. So you cannot use break inside because it's a function. And another thing is, can we use for each with asynchronous operations? What happens? Have you tried? It doesn't wait for the response anyway if you put the await inside. Because if you see the implementation, it is a for loop, which called the line by line, the functions inside there. And so we have for off. In for off, you can actually use await there. But the thing is, most of the link, like Airbnb style guys, doesn't allow you to use for off.
You can use a map inside promise of it.
No, it's because of the reiterative runtime. Where you put a runtime inside to do the transformation part for the older versions. It is actually very weak, so they don't like to have one in there. But if you're using for backend, okay, it's fine. But if you're going to use for frontend, be careful if you support the older versions. So let's get this question.
Do you have a good point about that Airbnb style guys? If you can give introduction.
How many of you use a style guide in your code base? Is it necessary? What do you think about it? Do you think it's, yeah? Maybe start from here.
Because we already have like 2 developers working on the project with this style guide, so it's to prevent like PRs being annoying.
Yeah, when it comes to team projects, I really like using a style guide. Only hard thing is if you're getting a new person into the project, and you put in a style guide, and he might think that it's the JavaScript way. That if you write it like that, it's okay. But if you write it in a normal way, even without the making style guide, still works. So there's an article on Dan that he doesn't prefer style guides. Yeah, it's kind of both in both ways, but when it comes to team project, I still like to have a style guide.
Should the lead take care of those things anyway?
It's kind of a team lead thing. It's based on the team lead.
But the leader.
Yeah. Some of the things will be take care of the leader, but still it's not the language. Language has some the thing you can break it, but that means it has a freedom. You put some boundaries in there. Because React links doesn't have any rules actually. It's being one. Then you can actually put more rules and just write on what you want.
Do you have the avenues you missing?
Airbnb?
Like missing? Probably together.
So I use Airbnb with GS also. So because now ESLint has a type of browser, so we can actually use rather than ESLint. So the idea that we like to go. How many of you use monorepos? That's cool. Front end and back end in the same repo? What kind of experience do you have? Any kind of pitfalls you fall into?
We had 20 repos before actually.
Single repo?
Yeah, no, we had 20 repos before, like we had did submodules and then we moved.
I also have some kind of. So let's get a discussion going on, and I can answer it.
It depends if you are aiming to use across front-end and back-end, you can just see everything is built in. But again, it's also related to your problems. You have to use something like Jasper spaces or the
So we also use Learner with Young Workspaces. The thing I recently put into this actually with Jest. So React uses about a kind of a very recent version of the Jest. So if you use Jest installed in the other project, it's going to get a conflict because when it comes to if you're using a Learner section, moreover managing library, so where you can have in your same Git repo, you can have multiple packages as you wish. Like you can define the way, like you can put everything into packages and define separate things. And you can use like YARN workspaces, which is supported by Deno, which makes when you install something dependency, it's going to be hoisted into the root. So you don't have multiple installation in separate folders, like have modules in every folder with each and every dependencies in there. All the shared dependencies will be hoisted and actually very good, and there will be siblings. So the repo will be much lesser size. And we used to have separate repos, and when we try to install it with the new version, it's going to be kind of a mess. But when you have everything in single repo and you have some shared things, you can use that shared one as a dependency into your other projects, which makes it very easy to update and work on the newest versions. Any other things that you encountered with the repos? Good and bad.
Is it sort of new for me? So, like, what is the concept of like, is it something specific to Angular or React, or is it something to do with packages?
Anything with anything related to JavaScript? Yeah, monorepo is actually let's get sample. React is a monorepo.
Even Google has a model.
Yeah, Google essentially. So monorepo is actually let's say you have a backend application and you have front-end React application. So normally you put this one in one repo and put it backend in one repo, and you commit into these two separately. And you have another let's say this has a front-end for the clients, and you have another front-end for the admin. So these two are separate projects, and you have different people working together. But you have some shared code. So maybe you create another repo which has shared content and you try to have these things as another two dependencies. Rather than putting this in a separate reports, you can actually make it as a one inside one folder and as a one repository. Okay, reside inside the one repository.
So no matter what technology each of those repositories use, so you could have Angular and then React two different projects, but having the same sharing the same onboarding folder.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, and you will have separate packages and itself. And we have also have an root package where you can have common dependencies. For my case, I have Prettier and I use Husky and Linstage as a common dependencies in top. So which I use in many repositories. And likewise, you can actually have some common repo. If you have a total React monorepo, you can actually make React go to top and like JS and everything. Or if you use testing library from KNC.s, React testing library to test the React components. You should check out. It's far more better than Enzyme and it's very testing. And it supports snapshot checking and everything is out of the box. And it's very easy to get the components search from the test IDs and all stuff. And it's currently in a single organization. It's called test library / React at test library / React, and it also has Angular and other things also, React Native and also. So it's kind of a common syntax way of following things. Yeah, any other new stuff you'd like to talk about? Just a few minutes left. Because this discussion is the one I really like because I get to know new things.
Why do you use your?
I use it.
Yeah, why do you use it? Like,
First thing is the unword spaces. And caching. Yes, caching and leaving file is done. And I also have command line shortcuts. Yeah. So I use YSQ to start. YB2. So it's now kind of like TM language.
because we use PNPM. We use PNPM.
PNPM.
Yeah. Which is, does anyone else use PNPM?
I didn't hear. This is the first time I heard.
Okay, so it's called like short for performant NPM. It's written by this one small guy who like and it blew up and like it's faster than Yarn. And it does flattening instead of like so NPM does module resolution. Like what he said, it will take all the dependencies and give everyone its own copy of dependencies. So what Yarn does is like it just gets one and it syncs everything.
Yeah.
And if you haven't explicitly mentioned that you have this dependency, it'll error because like so like for example, say you install Express will install body parser, and then you can import body parser and it'll work if you're using npm because like Express will install body parser, so it'll be there in your modules. But like PNPM won't do that. It will give Express its own symlink and won't let you access anything else. So like you can't have shadow dependencies or phantom dependencies which your projects rely on.
That's another case I got from the monorepo.
Yeah.
So if I have some dependencies somewhere else, and if I try to build this only one project and one folder, it gets errors because of the it's actually isn't in there. ENPM, absolutely. Yeah.
This is the first time I also got it. This one, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Same part and everything, so it's being fast. So we also kind of do the total backend in TypeScript. We created a kind of our own boilerplate to get it started. It might have it's available in my GitHub if you want to try. Called ESIGNITE.
This is just a subtitle.
There's new yarn announcement also available in ESCOM video section. Because they also giving some more performance from the yarn itself. And they are enforcing the cache. Going to be optional. It's going to be used in the grade of JSON rather than YAML. Now they say it's ultra fast. So how is continuous integration pipeline with the monorepositories? Do you get any issues with it?
Not really, since we use the
Just global export and just connect. And you need some few tweaks after the CDD. Make sure that you maintain partition and turn on yarn workspaces from the package JSON. Then you are good to go. When you turn on the yarn workspaces, if you are trying to install some dependency in the root, make sure that you put -w as a workspace dependencies. Otherwise, it doesn't allow you to install it in the root. Just for make sure that you are doing right thing. Search for same-based So Sendesk Garden is the Sendesk UI kit, and it's actually a very large learner monorepo. Very good, very cheap. So just go to the React components. It's actually one monorepo. Yeah, there's a JSON here. Some more options are there, but we will also make preview plan into yarn. And there are all files. And from learner, there are some other options. You can actually publish the whole monorepository or one package. Just give an update, and it's going to update the NPM packages if you have it. In an NPM publishing repository, or you can use your own private repository and publish it there. And there are many other things. This is the one I have just remembered. So that's kind of a way of people doing things now, other than having separate repositories for everything. You know these concepts?
What's happening with the table? Any new things?
They are actually now in new announcement for the ES 2018. I think they already have a space in here. And now TypeScript supports for the newest version of the ES announcement. I recently used the config update. Yeah, so it's actually I have ES config set up for that one. I have used link stage. MSP is the one who has the hooks. So you can fire an action when a git commit or git add or something happen. And with the link stage, with link stage also. In Husky, you can set up free commit or free push or something to make sure that you don't commit something that is not into your way of doing things. Like you can enforce style guide to run, like an interrun. Then the interface isn't going to commit it. Then you actually need to actually make sure that it is being ready. Then it only allows you to do the score needs stage. Yeah. Can run right. Yeah. You can see the changes. So, and you can set up Husky to do the running part of the link page. And it's going to check everything. And it's okay, then it's going to be committed. Like normally we do prettier and ES means before the committee. So the whole committing code base is actually nice and clean. Even they don't have a prettier plugin or something, still it works. Because we have prettier as a dependency, dependency. Suppose using any other stuff.
And it's very useful when I working with the team.
Yeah.
It will restrict everyone from pushing in bad code to the gate. It will work.
Yeah, even if you are in hurry.
Yeah.
Any more would you like to discuss? So check out.
Interesting project, but there's no actual code or anything in the source yet. It's not a flow. It's not, you have to go to the Twitter account of the order because it's closed source right now. It's written or like developed by the same author who developed Babel. Basically, it's a kind of a single tool chain for JavaScript, which includes like compiler, transpiler, test, run and everything. So you don't have to like create different things that will be back. Or just you just install Rome and then you have everything in. It's written for like developed by Celestine Martinsi. So he's basically the author of Babel. It's he was the face of the closed source. Like if you want to follow, you can follow him in Twitter and then get an update on his messages about this.
He's also working with React Native, right?
He developed Yarn and Deno.
So some React Native trade roles in there. Maybe it's inclusive in the
Yes.
Facebook.
Yes.
And React Native also got a new type for Android. It's called Hermes. Yeah. So that's good, and yeah, pretty much fast, and it reduced the application size also. And tested, and it's apparently without issues. I just use a working application and just send it to the rounds one. Yeah. Work without issues, and we have web support and stuff. Still works. Yeah. The good thing is APK size is very reduced. That's not very active. So we came to the end of the unit today, and thank you very much for coming in here. We are kind of 1 week notice. And I need to thank people from Bangladesh, Umesh and Madhusha.
Yeah, Madhusha.
Madhusha, he's the two of them actually. Umesh also asked we can actually give the location, and we actually get in touch with Madhusha. and they actually, with help of Ubuntu, is the one who actually handled the groundwork this time. So these guys actually make this event possible. And Rajika and Salitha, they are from 99, but we don't have any competition or things to put them as speakers. They were supposed to speak from the April, but we couldn't have a venue and organizer, so it was kind of pending the venue. And I'm really glad we can make it here. And I would like to thank Alex for making it possible, and to Mr. Develop to running this time with all the organizing help for me. I was sitting here. And thank you very much for your coming here and making it possible to have going this community going through. And Charlie, keep the good work going on and make the Sri Lankan name going on there. And all the best for the project. And yeah, good night and till the next event.